our country is honestly, it's going to hell.
The Donald Trump, that is already running high in some national polls. Should the other GOP candidates be worried?
I think he says a lot. He says a lot of what other people want to say but are afraid to say.
I don't think he should be taken seriously, not to mention that he doesn't have any experience in the arena.
What does he do for you, or not?
He doesn't do much for me. I definitely wouldn't vote for him.
I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second.
I think he's ridiculous.
Ridiculous, there's one word.
I'm not worried about it because he's never going to make it.
Can't take him seriously. He just comes across as a celebrity to me.
He is?
Well, yes, and that's as far as I can see it.
You think he is viable?
Oh, yeah, I think he is not only entertainment, but he's a thoughtful person.
And speaking of thoughtful people, we have two with us this morning to offer analysis. Two genuine 4th of July holiday firecrackers for our Independence Week. What? I'm just saying. I thought I'd pull it up. Democrat Marianne Mars is with us and Republican Patrick Griffin is with us. Great to have you guys here.
So Donald Trump is not going to back down on his derogatory comments about Mexicans. So who in the end is going to end up paying for this, him or the party?
Well, so far it's cost Donald Trump mucho dinero. If you look at what's happened to him. Muy bien, yes. I think what the problem for Donald Trump is, this is all about his brand. It's not about anything else. It's always about Donald Trump. When this thing starts to cost Donald Trump real money, financing a campaign, suing everybody, trying to defend losing the Macy's deal, losing the golf, losing Miss Universe, at some point the business side of Donald Trump is going to figure this thing is not only impractical, but also very expensive.
But in the end, is it possible that the party ends up paying for this, Marianne?
Of course they will. Donald Trump is the most dangerous person in politics today. He's already lost everything. The TV show, Macy's, the beauty pageant, CERTA, maybe New York City business, but he has $9 billion. He's got a cushion most of us don't have there. So he is the ringmaster of this circus, and the damage he's going to do to the Republican primary will be epic.
But why? Why hasn't Hillary Clinton has spoken out against it? Why hasn't anyone else? Why hasn't Jeb Bush, who's married to a Mexican-American, spoken out against this?
And there you go. Because they're not sure. Hold on. They're not sure that they can handle it. Because they're afraid of him. Because he will unleash them, and they will back down. And so, as a result, voters will say, you can't stand up to Donald Trump. You can't stand up for me.
Wait a minute. Let's put some perspective on this. Donald Trump is at 11%. There is a floor and a ceiling to Donald Trump. The question is this a train wreck everybody stops to look at? Train wrecks are unpleasant, but they do get the attention of folks. Donald Trump has as much chance of becoming the Republican nominee for president as I do. Bernie Sanders is the most dangerous man on your side, and the Hillary High Command is in complete meltdown over it. So, listen, Donald Trump is a happy distraction that everyone finds interesting. If he was walking around Washington Street, not wearing a suit with the same hairdo, saying the things he says now, people would think he just stumbled out of a methadone clinic.
Your Trump train wreck will be in the debates, and that will be a train
wreck. And so will Bernie Sanders.
There are 14 GOP presidential candidates, and perhaps as controversial as Trump is Chris Christie. How do you read the stars for him?
Solar eclipse. I mean, he has no chance of doing anything. However, if Chris Christie and Donald Trump are in any debate together, that's not a GOP debate, that's a UFC match, okay? That's all that is. I mean, and it should be promoted as such.
There'll be weight classes, but let's be fair. But look, here's the thing. I do think this. Chris Christie's starting in a tough spot, but 11 events in 4 days. The big theme that's coming out of this thing is New Hampshire matters more than ever before. It's do or die for everybody in New Hampshire. Iowa doesn't count that much because Iowa's made itself more and more irrelevant to a national election. So everybody's got lots staked on New Hampshire this time.
But the latest polls show that Christie is still pretty far down, and he thinks that that is his starting point. So isn't he sort of...
Yeah, no, I think Chris Christie, I've said to you before, I didn't know if he'd even get into this thing. I think the expectations for Chris Christie were much more. He peaked way too early. He has no portable New Jersey story
He peaked in 2012. He's done.
Okay, Hillary Clinton, she's back in Massachusetts. She's looking for money, and then she goes directly to New Hampshire looking for votes. It's sort of a familiar travel plan for the Clintons. Are they going to have to change their strategy and stop replicating what's worked for them in the past, Marianne?
Well, coming to Massachusetts, there's no better place. Massachusetts has always been very friendly to the Clintons, raised them a lot of money, and then send even more people to New Hampshire to organize for them. And you've already seen Joe Kennedy and Nikki Tsongas already go up there in these last few weeks to campaign for her. That's the model for Massachusetts for the Clintons, and it works.
Does this strategy going to work for her her as well as it did for her husband.
Well, look, the Clintons' M.O. is pretty much the same as Bonnie and Clyde. Hit a couple of banks in one state and then get over the border and out of town. I'm not sure it worked for Hillary Clinton in 2008. It didn't. It worked for Bill Clinton a couple of times.
She won New Hampshire.
But she did not win the nomination.
She won New Hampshire.
As far as I know, Barack Obama became president.
We're talking about New Hampshire.
But still, I don't know whether or not Hillary Clinton can sustain what is an enormous advantage in money and lead right now. And that's the question.
Boston 2024. They released their 2.0 plan, more details, more answers, but even the governor and the House Speaker say it isn't even close enough. Listen.
We still have some work to do to determine a whole bunch of issues.
In terms of a comfort level, I don't think, at least for me, that it's there right now.
Marianne, this week the USOC claimed to be happy. Who do we believe?
This just does not add up. And when you look at the numbers, you look what they're putting on the table, if all the things they say are paid for, then why aren't we doing them now? I mean, that's the question out there. And oh, by the way, the neighborhood they want to build in Woodette Circle, that won't be done until 2040, 16 years after the Olympics, if we have it here. This makes no sense right now.
Patrick.
Well, I think that, check has been called and now checkmate. If these numbers don't add up, if the governor isn't happy, if the speaker isn't happy, more importantly, Mayor Walsh is a very, very important voice in all of this. We're really getting down to the sort of brass tacks on this thing, and I think that a lot has been lost.
The USOC didn't balk this week because Los Angeles is 48 hours away from being ready. Right. There is a backup that's in place. That's why they didn't balk.
But I don't think that happens yet. I still think Boston gets submitted as a bid.
Very quickly, moving the referendum date up to April or next spring, is that a good idea or a bad idea?
It's a good idea because what we wind up with, as you know, in a presidential campaign year is a very ridiculous turnout.
Good idea, bad idea?
It doesn't matter. It would lose right now on either date.
We're going to go take a break. We'll be right back.